yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships. Like, but do I still want to do this shit? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
You think it's funny?
And then I want to come back. Well, some people say, I'm going to go 22 straight. And, you know what I'm saying? So it's a contract I feel like you got to have with yourself, too, in order for you to be a, you know, great.
You know, there's no turn it on here, turn it off here. It's just 110% at all times. So, you know, if I burn out, I burn out.
Pierce had it poked away, stolen by Jordan. Lojas down on the floor. It's loose to Humphries. 4 to shoot. Humphries 3.
You like the idea. Jordan coming up with the steal.
Oh, look
again.
at that. The 40-year-old dives to the hardwood.
Garth Gilmore told me one time, he played for Chicago, he said, if you expect to play a long time in this league, you better quit mopping up the floor. And I thought, well, he's crazy, because that's what basketball is all about.
Bird takes it away from Wilkins, goes to the floor and gets it up ahead.
Charles Barkley just said out loud what a lot of NBA legends have been thinking for years, and LeBron James is not going to enjoy hearing it on live television. Looking straight into the camera, Barkley dropped a line that instantly froze the room. Kevin Durant has no business in the GOAT conversation. Not even close. But here's the twist no one saw coming. This wasn't about rings, stats, or raw talent. This was about respect. And after what LeBron and KD recently said on their podcast, they were bound to find out what happens when you dismiss the wrong legend. Set the scene. LeBron James and Steve Nash host a podcast called Mind the Game, where elite basketball minds break down the sport, trade stories, and talk legacy. In a recent episode, Kevin Durant joined them. 3 generational superstars relaxing, talking hoops, and reflecting on their careers. It all felt casual, comfortable, almost harmless. Then the conversation shifted. They started talking about what it really takes to remain great year after year in the NBA, and that's when things quietly crossed a line.
Kevin's a great player. I think that his legacy is complicated. You know, I don't like any guys who join super teams. I'm biased against LeBron when it comes to comparing him to Michael, joining Dwayne and those guys. Because, you know, when we had this debate, and LeBron's amazing and spectacular, but I was like, Michael didn't join anybody. He just kept getting his ass kicked and got bigger and got stronger and finally knocked the wall down. And, you know, Kevin, who's a great player, you know, other than the fact when he joined the Warriors, he hasn't been successful anywhere else. And I don't hold that against him, but he wants to be considered in that list. He's not on that list. He's not on that list. He's a great, great player, but he's not on that list. He wants to be like, wow, he's not in a GOAT conversation, because you're not, plain and simple.
Damn.
You had great success when you joined the Warriors, but not only did you not have success, you actually flamed out in those other places. You got swept last year in the playoffs. You didn't even make the play-in this year.
Durant began talking about the mental grind, the discipline it takes, the doubts that creep in, and those moments when you question whether you still have the will to keep pushing. Then, almost out of nowhere, he dropped a line that instantly lit up the room. Some people say, I want to go play baseball and come back, KD said. Others want to go 22 straight years. LeBron exploded with laughter, like he just heard the funniest joke imaginable. And everyone watching knew exactly who that comment was aimed at. Michael Jordan. The same Michael Jordan who dominated the league, won 3 straight championships, walked away from basketball, then returned to win 3 more. Durant wasn't just cracking a joke, he was taking a clear shot at MJ for stepping away, while simultaneously praising LeBron for grinding through 22 seasons without ever hitting pause. And that's where things started to get messy. Michael Jordan didn't leave the game because he was bored or chasing a side hobby. In 1993, MJ was at the absolute peak of his powers, ruling the league in a way no one else ever had. He had just completed a historic three-peat, something only a handful of teams in NBA history have ever managed to accomplish. What came next mattered far more than a punchline.
Years ago, shit, I was in the league. I thought you was about to say some shit about the 90s.
Only one of us was in the
I'm
league.
down with the 90s. That team, that 90s bled into the early 2000s.
Then the unthinkable hit him harder than anything on the court. His father, James Jordan, was...
Then life hit Michael Jordan with something no defender ever could. That summer, his father, James Jordan, was murdered. This wasn't just a parent. This was his best friend, his mentor, the man who believed in him before the world ever did. The loss shattered him in a way basketball never could. It's the kind of grief most people can't even begin to imagine. So when Jordan stepped away from the NBA to play minor league baseball, he wasn't running from pressure or avoiding competition. He was grieving. He was honoring his father. Baseball was James Jordan's favorite sport, the dream he always wanted Michael to chase. Every swing, every practice, every lonely bus ride in the minors was done with his father in mind. That chapter wasn't weakness. It was love, which is why Kevin Durant turning that moment into a punchline hit such a nerve. Fans immediately pushed back. Social media exploded with people calling the comment cold, tone-deaf, and deeply disrespectful. You don't joke about the most painful chapter in the career of the greatest player the game has ever seen. And here's the thing, this wasn't an isolated moment. It wasn't the first time LeBron James had taken a subtle swipe at Michael Jordan or the era he dominated. Not long ago, LeBron made another comment that raised eyebrows when he said, "We're done with the 90s. But the 90s defined basketball greatness. That was the era Jordan owned, the decade that turned the NBA into a global powerhouse." Saying "we're done with the 90s" wasn't just a throwaway line. It sounded like an attempt to erase that era, to reset the timeline so greatness conveniently begins with LeBron's generation. Instead of letting his legacy speak for itself, LeBron appeared to be reshaping the story, making it seem like the legends before him weren't as dominant or as impressive as history remembers. And that's exactly where Charles Barkley finally stepped in. Chuck had been watching this slow erosion of respect for years, hearing players downplay the 90s, watching people dismiss Jordan's competition, seeing the narrative shift toward the idea that basketball back then was somehow inferior to today's game. He hit his limit on live television. During a segment discussing Kevin Durant's legacy, especially after his struggles in Phoenix, the host asked Barkley where KD ranks among the all-time greats. Chuck didn't dodge the question. "Kevin's a great player," he said, "but his legacy is complicated." Then Barkley stopped holding back. "I don't like guys who join super teams," he said flatly. "And I'll be honest, I'm biased against LeBron when it comes to comparing him to Michael. Michael didn't join anybody. He took his losses, got stronger, and broke through the wall." That line landed hard because it exposed the real divide in how greatness was chased. Michael Jordan didn't look for shortcuts. He was drafted by the Chicago Bulls and stayed through the ugliest years. He ran headfirst into the bad boy Pistons, one of the most brutal physical teams the league has ever seen, and they knocked him down 3 years in a row. And Jordan didn't run. He went back to the gym, added muscle, sharpened his edge, and eventually tore that wall down. That's how his dynasty was built. And Charles Barkley wasn't finished. He turned his attention straight to Kevin Durant. "Kevin's a great player," Barkley said. "Nobody's denying that." Then he delivered the part that made the room tense. Other than when he joined the Warriors, he hasn't been successful anywhere else. That one hit differently because it rang true. Look at Durant's career arc. In Oklahoma City, he came painfully close but never finished the job. Then in 2016, he made one of the most controversial moves in sports history, joining a Golden State team that had just won 73 games and eliminated him from the playoffs. They already had a championship. They already had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They didn't need Kevin Durant, and everyone knew it. After leaving Golden State, Barkley laid out the truth on live TV. In Phoenix, Durant's super team experiment fizzled fast. The Suns were swept out of the 2024 playoffs, despite all the hype surrounding Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. In 2025, they didn't even reach the postseason. Before that, there was Brooklyn, another attempted super team with James Harden and Kyrie Irving that collapsed under its own weight. The pattern is hard to ignore. When Durant joins an already dominant team, he looks unstoppable. When he's expected to lead and lift a franchise to the top, it falls apart. Barkley's verdict was blunt. If you want to be in the GOAT conversation, you're not. Period. That statement shook the debate because it wasn't trash talk. It was a reality check. Which brings up the bigger question. Why do LeBron James and Kevin Durant, two all-time greats, seem so bothered by Michael Jordan? LeBron has lived in Jordan's shadow since day one. Labeled the chosen one, he was expected to surpass MJ before he ever played an NBA game. and for a moment it looked possible. But no matter what LeBron accomplished, Jordan's resume kept looming larger. 6 championships to 4. A perfect 6-0 finals record versus LeBron's 4 wins and 6 losses. 10 scoring titles for Jordan, 1 for LeBron. Every time LeBron closed the gap in one area, Jordan was still far ahead in another. Durant's situation is different, but just as frustrating. He's one of the most gifted scorers the game has ever seen. Pure skill, pure efficiency. Yet his legacy never fully escaped controversy. The move to Golden State changed how fans viewed him. Even with 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs, there's always been an invisible asterisk attached. And KD feels that. He knows when all-time lists are made, he's not in the same tier as Jordan, Kobe, or even Steph Curry. So what happens? You try to pull the past down, hoping it lifts you up. Charles Barkley saw through that immediately, and he didn't stop there. He issued a warning. The backlash is coming. Because here's the irony. By normalizing disrespect toward the legends who came before them, LeBron and Durant are setting the stage for the same treatment in their own futures. One day they'll be retired. A new generation will rise. Fans who never watched them in their prime, who don't feel the moments or the memories. Those fans will judge them coldly by numbers alone. They'll call the era weak. They'll question the super teams. They'll downplay the greatness. Exactly what's happening now. That's what Barkley was really standing up for. Not just Michael Jordan, but the integrity of basketball history. His message was clear. You don't get to rewrite the past because it doesn't fit your narrative. You don't tear down the legends who built the game to make your own legacy look cleaner. Because the moment you do, that same disrespect comes back around. The cycle always comes back around. And with LeBron lately, there's something else happening that makes this entire situation even more revealing. His focus seems to be shifting from just playing the game to controlling the narrative around his legacy, launching a podcast where he can frame the conversation himself, constantly calling himself the GOAT instead of letting history make that decision, talking about never having enough help, despite playing alongside Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Anthony Davis, and rosters stacked with all-star talent for most of his career. All of it paints the picture of someone deeply concerned with how they'll be remembered. And moments like laughing at Michael Jordan's most painful chapter don't help. When you turn a legend's trauma into a joke, people don't forget. It chips away at respect slowly but permanently. That's why the 90s deserve real respect. Because that era wasn't just Michael Jordan, even though he ruled it completely. It was Karl Malone and John Stockton grinding year after year. It was Hakeem Olajuwon owning the paint. It was Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, and a generation of Hall of Famers pushing each other to the limit. The competition was brutal. Handchecking was legal. Physical defense wasn't optional, it was expected. Fouls that would earn automatic flagrants today were just part of the game. There was no load management, no nights off for maintenance. Players showed up every game and played through injuries that would sideline stars for weeks in today's NBA. And through all of that, Michael Jordan dominated without forming super teams. He didn't call rivals to join forces. He lined them up and beat them. That's the difference. That's why his legacy stands alone. Charles Barkley even dropped a stat that blows the GOAT debate wide open. LeBron has played in 559 games with 30 or more points. An incredible number. But Michael Jordan played in 562 such games. And here's the key detail. LeBron has played 8 more seasons than Jordan. Almost a full decade of extra opportunities, and still couldn't pass him. Jordan averaged 31 points per game for his entire career. LeBron sits closer to 27. Jordan hunted buckets every night, breaking opponents mentally as much as physically. And then there's the ultimate stat, the finals. Jordan went 6 times, won 6 times, took home finals MVP every single time. That's not luck. That's dominance. LeBron's 10 finals appearances are remarkable, but 4 wins and 6 losses matter in the GOAT conversation. Each loss adds weight to the comparison. So when Barkley went after LeBron and KD, it wasn't personal. It was about protecting the truth. About making sure basketball history doesn't get twisted to protect egos. His message was simple. You're great, but you're not Michael Jordan. And trying to pull MJ down to lift yourselves up is only going to backfire. What's wild is how easily this could have been avoided. If Durant had praised LeBron's longevity without taking a shot at Jordan, none of this happens. If LeBron had stepped in and said, "Let's not disrespect MJ," he would have looked like the bigger man. Instead, they laughed, and now they're dealing with the fallout. Here's the truth they need to accept. The GOAT debate isn't about longevity or total points. It's about dominance, clutch moments, mental toughness, and respect for the game and for the legends who built it. In those areas, Michael Jordan still stands alone. That doesn't diminish LeBron or Durant. They're all-time greats. But they're not Jordan. And the sooner they accept that, the easier this conversation becomes. Barkley's takedown wasn't about one podcast joke. It was years of frustration boiling over. A Hall of Famer who faced Jordan at his peak standing up and saying, "Enough. You don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to mock legends. You don't get to disrespect the game just to feel better about where you rank." Basketball needed that moment. Because if every generation tears down the last to build itself up, the sport loses its soul. Basketball has always been built on respect, on honoring the players who carried the game forward. And Charles Barkley just reminded everyone that there are still people willing to protect that history, even if it makes today's stars uncomfortable. When it comes to respect, legacy, and true greatness, Michael Jordan is still untouchable. And no podcast joke will ever change that. Now it's your turn. Did LeBron and KD cross the line? Or was it just competitive talk? Drop your thoughts below. This conversation isn't over. It's just getting started.